Here's an HR secret. They knew you were a no immediately. You're probably not being rejected because you aren't qualified. That explanation feels clean, so people keep using it. It gives you something to fix you. It's your fault. You need more skills, you need a better resume, you need to submit more applications. But if that were true, the most qualified people would get hired consistently, wouldn't they? But they don't. Something else is deciding before your qualifications even matter. That's the part that most people never see. So let's break the illusion here. Hiring is not a search for the best candidate, it's a process of eliminating risk. Fast, quietly, repeatedly. Every role open is a problem someone wants gone. The team is stretched, the manager is under pressure, or something is not getting done, and now there's a decision to make. Not who is the most impressive. That's not it. Because honestly, like sometimes if you're too impressive, that makes people uncomfortable. They're solving for who can get us through this without creating new problems. That's the real question they're looking to answer. And most candidates try to answer a completely different one. They're trying to answer, how can I prove that I'm the most capable? They talk about skills, they list experience, they explain what they could do, but capability is not the same as safety, and safety is what gets approved. That's the gap. Okay, so you're thinking, cool, all right, I just need to show that I'm reliable. Like, not exactly. Reliable is really good, but predictable is going to be better. Explainable is best because someone has to defend hiring you. And if they can't explain you in one sentence, you start to feel expensive. Not in salary necessarily, but in risk. And this is what blocks you from getting the job. You aren't being judged the way you actually think you're being judged. You think someone is carefully reading your resume, comparing you to others, weighing your strengths and weaknesses against theirs. What's really happening is much faster. You're being scanned, maybe by AI, but also by people. This is uncomfortable, but true. And the scan is like, does this person look familiar? Do I understand what they do? Can I picture them here without thinking too hard? If yes, you move forward. If not, you disappear. No explanation, no feedback, just silence. And that silence feels personal, it's mechanical. And here's another uncomfortable part. If your resume requires interpretation, you're probably already in trouble. If your experience looks broad and not specific, you're probably already in trouble. If your story sounds like potential instead of proof, you see where I'm going here, like trouble all around. Clarity beats potential every time. And potential is what people try to sell. Don't sell that. If you're trying to figure out how to fix this instead of guessing, check out my free download, the Career Reset Workbook. Now, this is where people will say, I'm a fast learner. That's great. Every hiring manager hears that in every job interview. What the hiring manager actually translate that into is, oh, wow, this is going to take time, and time equals risk. So now what you position as a strength becomes a hesitation. This is cruel. Like, I get it, but it's also really accurate. This is why people with average skills but obvious experience get hired. They look safer, they're easier to explain, they reduce like a need to think, and hiring managers are not rewarded for finding talent. They're rewarded for not making mistakes. That's the system. So they choose the candidate that feels the least likely to backfire, not the one with like the highest ceiling for potential. It's the one with the lowest perceived risk. Now let's make this more concrete. Think about how a recruiter looks at your application. They're not like deeply evaluating your ability. They're filtering, and they're doing it fast. Hundreds of resumes, seconds per resume. They're moving through the removal of uncertainty. Anything unclear equals a problem. Anything unusual is a question, and anything that requires extra thought becomes a maybe later. And maybe later, that's where your application goes to die. Quietly, like there's no ceremony around that. And this frustrates people, right? You can do everything right and still get filtered out because right is not the right mindset. Safe is. You think that more detail helps? No, that creates more friction. It's more to translate and dissect. You think explaining your journey adds depth? They think it adds risk. You've been all over the place. Same information, different interpretation. The system rewards their interpretation. Yours, like, doesn't matter. That's where people get stuck. They keep adding, like, more bullets. Look at all these tools and technologies I can use. Look at all the responsibilities I had. They try to look more complete, but completeness is not actually the goal. Easy and recognizable, those are the goals. Can the hiring team recognize you as a solution instantly? If they have to think, you lose. That sounds harsh. Process is harsh, but it's also predictable, which means you can use it. Now, shift to the hiring manager. They're not reading your resume carefully at all. Not the HR person, not the hiring manager, not at first. They're looking for a pattern that they can trust. Have I seen someone like this succeed before? If yes, you are safe. You're going ahead. If no, you are a question. And questions are slow decisions, so they avoid them. And here's where people make the biggest mistake. They try to stand out. They try to be different. They try to be memorable. And like that works in marketing. It doesn't work in hiring the way people think. Different increases attention, but it can also increase risk. And risk is what the system filters out, especially depending on what type of job you're applying for. Instead of being different, you need to be clearly aligned, close enough to something that they already trust. That's the real power move. You're not trying to surprise them. You are trying to relax them. That's a big difference. It's all about their comfort. This is why networking and referrals can change everything, not because the system is fair, but because trust gets transferred. So someone inside says, this person is solid. Now the unknown becomes partially known. Risk drops. Your chances increase. Same resume, different context, different outcome. That's not luck. That's how trust works. Now, when it comes to interviews, people think if I can just get the interview, I'm good. Not exactly. The same rules apply. Reduce risk. Answer every question through that lens. If you ramble, risk goes up. If you vague, risk goes up. If your examples are unclear, risk goes up. You see where I'm going with this. If your experience doesn't map cleanly to their problem, risk goes up. You can be smart. You can be a top performer and still be risky. And risky candidates, they don't get offers. They get, we went with someone else. Polite language for you felt uncertain or unsafe. So here's the part that changes your approach. Okay, first of all, let's stop thinking about like the bullets on our resume and the tactical shit that was where everyone tells you to think. No, let's think bigger. Let's think system. The system wants you to be safe. So stop trying to prove you're impressive. I know you are. I can see it. I'm impressed by you already. Start making it easy to say yes. This means compressing your story, tight, clear, specific. I solved this problem this way, and here's what changed. That's it. No long explanations, no abstract thinking, no hoping they connect the dots. You connect the dots, they will not. They don't have the time or the incentive to do that. And if you don't do it, they move on. It is really that simple. You also need to understand that most rejection happens before anyone fully evaluates you. You're not losing at the final stage. You're likely losing at the clarity stage, where your value is not obvious enough for you to continue. That's why applying more doesn't fix it. It just repeats the same outcome faster. More silence, more confusion, same pattern. So the strategy changes. You stop optimizing for effort. You stop thinking volume will save you. You start optimizing for certainty. You make your experience look familiar. You make your value look easy to explain. You make your past work map directly to their current problem. Reduce doubt, reduce questions, reduce friction, because that's what gets people hired. Not being the best, being the easiest to approve. Okay, this might not feel fair, but it is consistent. And once you see that, you can, I hope, stop taking rejection personally. You start to see it structurally. You realize you weren't invisible because you lacked ability. You were invisible because you felt risky. And some of the risk you might carry with you might absolutely not be something you can control. So we need to solve that different problem because it has a different solution. The Career Reset Workbook is a free download that walks you through getting clarity on your experience, and it'll help you reposition that to hiring managers. You don't need to become someone else. You need to become understandable in the system that you're already in, because hiring isn't really about discovering talent. It's about approving certainty and safety. And that's how work really works.